DaVinci Resolve 101. First, download the software from the App Store on the Mac or online for Windows. I'm using the free version, but the paid version is available on blackmagicdesign.com for both Mac and Windows, Linux and iPad too, apparently. Personally, since I'm on a Mac, I'm choosing to download it from the App Store because then I don't have to make an account. Give it a minute to boot up, and once it is, we can click Untitled Project or New Project, it really doesn't matter. Name it whatever you want and click Create. When you first load it up, you'll be brought to the cut page. I've heard fairly good things about this, but personally, I'm an idiot, so I exclusively use the edit page. If you click this up here, this is your media pool, and this is where all your clips will be stored. This is your timeline where you'll edit the project, and over here is the inspector where you can edit specific clips. First, drag your clip from your computer into the media pool and click change when it asks about the frame rate. You can also drag straight from your computer onto the timeline. This is easier if you're, say, editing one clip or adding one clip. It's just easier than throwing it into the media pool and then adding it into the timeline when you could just go directly from the computer. Sometimes when you're dragging something into the timeline, you might also see this where you can drag up and down, and that will spread out the clips. The audio and the video are already separated, so yeah, I just like to have them as close together as you can. Just for the demonstration, if we delete the video here and say we only had an audio clip, if we bring in a video clip with audio, if we put these close together like I just said, then that can cut off the audio that we already had. So in that case, you would want to have them a bit spread out, and then you just bring the video one level down. Or I guess it just depends what you're doing, whether you would do that or not. Now, I don't like seeing the media pool here, so let's close that. Now, sometimes dragging audio clips into the timeline or recording stuff directly into the timeline, you'll find that the audio might be mono and only coming out of one of your speakers. So in that case, we'll have to fix that. To manually change it for one clip, we can click on the audio clip, click Clip Attributes. For me right now, it already says stereo, but sometimes it might say mono, so you'll have to click that and click stereo, and then change both channels to channel 1, click save, and now we'll be stereo. But what if you've already cut up your audio significantly, and then you realize, oh wait, I forgot to change that? Well, in a situation like that, you can go up to the clip in the media pool, right click on it, and then go to Clip Attributes, and then do what we just did. That will change the entire clip, even though it's already cut up in the timeline. As far as I know, I don't know if you can make the entirety of the timeline itself stereo instead of mono, so yeah, just try and notice it soon and remember to check. But hey, at least you're able to change the files instead of fixing every single cut up clip itself. If you want to quit a project and not quit DaVinci Resolve itself, you can go up to File and then click Close Project. And there we go. Sometimes if you're trying to do that, you might accidentally click Close Current Timeline, and then this will happen. You might think, where is it? What happened? Did I lose everything? No, you didn't. Just go up to the media pool, and where it says Timeline 1, double click, and everything's back. Now for this example, I want to turn this old YouTube video into a new YouTube short. To do that, we're going to have to do some things before we do anything. First of all, you want to go to this DaVinci Resolve tab and click Preferences. Make sure it's on System, and go down to Video and Audio. Make sure you change the output device to what you want to be listening through, because sometimes it's not always connected to what you want to be listening through. You just have to make sure it's on what you want. Like right now, it's on my MacBook Air speakers, now that I changed it, and if I had headphones, I could click on that. So just make sure, otherwise it will not play through your headphones or whatever you want to be listening from. Now we can just click Save. Next thing we have to do is navigate to the Settings wheel. And since what I'm doing is making a YouTube short, we're going to have to click Use Vertical Resolution, and that will do exactly as it says. It will make it vertical. Now, if you don't like the sizing of the timeline here, you can change that a little bit in most projects. Specifically, since we're doing a short, we can't play with it too much. Like usually we'd be able to move this upwards. We can only move it downwards now. And we'd be able to move this, I believe, and get rid of the media pool, but we can't right now because we're doing a vertical video. What we can do instead, though, is shrink the size of the video clip in the timeline, and that will allow us to see more if we wanted to add more. You can do the same thing with the audio, but then you can't see the waveforms, so sometimes you might want it, sometimes you might not. You might notice that there's a gap in the beginning of our timeline. To fix that, we can click Command A on Mac or Control A on Windows. That will highlight all of our clips, and we can just bring that all the way to the left. And then we can click the up arrow, and that will bring us to the beginning of the timeline. And the way we know this is correct is that there's now a video in the preview box, and this says 1 hour. I don't know why it says 1 hour in the beginning of the timeline. If you want to fix that, then go up to the DaVinci Resolve tab, click Preferences, go to User, click Editing, and where it says Start Timecode, change that 1 to 0 and save. It won't change it for this project, but it'll change it for your future projects. Or at least it should, but I think it's kind of weird sometimes. I don't know. Okay, now we can click off. We don't need this highlighted anymore, and I do want this shrunken. Now we're ready to edit. First of all, yeah, this is a horizontal video in a vertical box. That doesn't look right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna click on just the video. Click Command C or Control C. Click and drag the video clip up a little bit to bring it to the video 2 track. And again, we can shrink that that. Now you can see because of the red outline that we're clicked on it, so let's click off of that by clicking on the dark gray and click Command V or Control V. Okay, now it brought us to the end of the clip. So click the up arrow and that'll bring you back to the beginning. What we just did there is we doubled the clip. This double layer will be the background of our video. So the order here is that the lower the clip is, so this is on the video 1 track, that will be in the background, but the video 2 track will be a layer in front of whatever is behind it. So if we had video 3, 4, 5 track, the video 5 track will be the thing that's in front, and then everything else would be in its respective layer behind that. And video 1 would be all the way in the back, if that makes sense. To demonstrate this, if we click on the top clip, then we go over to the inspector, where it says zoom, you can click and drag to the left, and that will make our clip smaller. And as I was saying before, because this is our video 2 track, you can see that it is in front of our video 1 track. Now this still doesn't look good, and I want that background to be blurred. So if we go up to this wand here, we can use all of these different effects that DaVinci Resolve has to offer. Some of them are included in the paid version, but what I want to use is in the free version. I want to use box blur specifically. Let's click and drag that onto our video 1 track. There we go. That's in the background. I think we can just leave it how it is, but if you wanted to play with it, yeah, this is how you do that. I believe you can click this box here, and now, yes, those are not connected anymore. This is a lot of stuff you can play with in the inspector tab yourself, but personally, I'm gonna leave it how it is. Also important to note that this is in the effects tab in the inspector. Usually we'd be on this video tab, which just has all of our general edits we can make to this specific clip that we're clicked on. But to see the effects we're using and edit them, we can go to the effects tab in the inspector. If we click on the name, that will minimize it. If we click on it again, that will maximize it. You can turn it off, you can turn it on, and sometimes you might accidentally drag multiple of the same effect or effects that you don't want onto the same clip, and in that case we can click the trash can to delete it. Or if you just messed up your effect and you want it to go back to how it was before, you can click this and that will make everything reset. Or if you want one specific effect to reset, then you click the arrow right next to that effect. Okay, I think that effect's good, but now I want to add a bit of a shadow around this clip. So let's make sure we're clicked on the V2 track, which is in front of the V1. And there's a search tool we can use to look up drop shadow. There it is, I didn't even have to finish typing it in. You can also add it to your favorites if you want, and then it'll just be right there for you. Now we click and drag onto the V2 clip, and I want it to be around both sides, so we can move the drop distance down, and you can't really tell it's there, so we can increase the blur. Now you can tell a little bit more. You can also increase shadow strength. Now you can tell. And then angle, it doesn't do anything right now because we changed the drop distance to be 0. But if we increase the drop distance and then change the drop angle, yeah, that changes the angle. It's a little bit easier to see if we make this smaller and then to change the drop angle, and yeah, now you can see it going around and around. Okay, so let's reset the drop angle, move the drop distance to 0. You don't have to actually reset the drop angle, but this is for a demonstration. I'm just showing you how you can use the reset tool. Click on the video tab and then resize this. Now what if you edited one clip to try out an effect and you want to put it on the rest of the timeline? Well, these other clips don't have that effect, so how do we do that? Well, for example, if we click on the clip with the effect in V2 and click Command C, then highlight all the other clips in V2, click Option V, that'll bring up this, click all attributes, so then everything here is checked. I don't know, it just makes it easier for me. Then click Apply, and now that effect on this one clip in V2 is on everything in V2. We can do the same thing for V1 so we can blur the background. Click on it, Command C, highlight these, Option V, click on this, apply, and there we go. Now everything has the effects. The reason why we didn't do that with the audio before is because we're not allowed. For some reason, the effects that we were able to copy and paste, we can't do the same thing with the clip attributes. You can't copy and paste those, even though when you go to paste in your effects, it still talks about attributes. It used the same wording, but we can't do the same thing. You actually can copy and paste audio effects just like we did with the video, but conveniently it doesn't work for changing from mono to stereo. It works for everything else though, or at least seems like it works for a good amount of stuff. I don't know, it's very weird. So just know you can copy and paste effects, but if we're talking about like changing the format, stereo, mono, whatever, you can't copy and paste that. I don't know, DaVinci Resolve is weird sometimes. But now I want to add some text to let people know what this video is about. So in our effects tab on the left, we have titles, but they're not showing up right now because we still have drop shadow in the search box. So we click X and that will show us all the titles that we have. And I just want a basic title, so we can click and drag that on top of all of our clips. Now that's on a V3 track. And this is getting a little bit hard to see, so if we click and drag in the middle of the timeline, we can bring that down a little bit. Okay, personally, I don't really like that because I can't see the audio that well, so let's bring it up a little bit. And to fix this gap, because it's a single clip, you can actually click on the blank space and then click delete, and there it is. It just brings it to the front of the timeline. Now that we're clicked on the clip, we can go into the inspector and the video tab. We can click into the text box and click Command or Control A and delete to delete the basic title that was already there. Then you can type in whatever you want. And you can see that this doesn't look right, so we're gonna cut this up into a few lines. Right before font, we can click and delete that space and click return. Right before old, we can delete that space and click return. I have what I want on each line to be on each line. Might be different in your case, depending on what you want on each line. Scroll down, we can change the font, we can change if it's bold or not bold, change the color, change the size. You can change the size, and yeah, you can use the slider, but you can see it gets a bit hard to use after a minute. So we can just go back to Old Faithful here and yeah, click and drag left and right. But it's all white, we can't see it, we need an outline. So in that case, we go over to stroke and click outside only, and then bring that all the way up. Yeah, outlines are really weird in DaVinci Resolve, but I don't know, that just worked in the moment, so yeah, let's go with that. And say we want to give it a drop shadow. So we can change the X and Y here a little bit. We can change the color if we wanted a red drop shadow, change the blur and the opacity. If we brought down the blur and kept up the opacity, it would look like that. If you brought down the opacity and put the blur all the way up, you'd see nothing. You at least need it at 1. You still don't see anything. So yeah, let's just leave it how it was. Let's use the reset tool. Perfect. Okay, now let's get into some fun stuff. Because I'm on a MacBook, I have to hold the Option and then scroll up or down to zoom in and out of the timeline. I'm pretty sure you can just use a scroll wheel if you're on a PC, or if you're using a Magic Mouse on a Apple desktop, then you can just hold Option and scroll up or down like I am. I am so professional, just taking wild shots in the dark of how things work. So if we want to change the length of the text here, we can click all the way at the end, and you can see our mouse changes, and then drag that to the left a little bit. If we click the up arrow and then click play, does that stay for as long as we want it to? It might be lagging a little bit, but we can see that it's staying for a little bit longer than we'd like. So if we only want it to stay for 2 seconds, this right here is called the scrubber. This time corresponds to where the scrubber is. So if we click and drag this over to 2 seconds and then click on the right of the text block and bring it to the left, you can see it doesn't snap, which brings up the opportunity to talk about another feature, the snap tool, which makes editing a whole lot easier because everything just automatically clicks to where you want it to go. On the topic of clicking and dragging clips, like the text block there, you can also click and drag in the middle of clips when your cursor looks like this. Clicking and dragging left and right, you can see we get this going on. So dragging to the right extends the one on the left and shortens the one on the right, and then dragging to the left lengthens the one on the right and shortens the one on the left. Once in a blue moon, I'll use this. Now the later part of the video, I don't want in the short. So if we go over to where we want to start deleting stuff, you can see, where the clip changes immediately. Now we can use the arrow keys to move in precise increments. If we keep clicking right, we can see where the clip changes. And the moment that you see that, you can click Command B, and that will automatically cut every single clip that your scrubber is hovering over. You can also use the blade tool, but I'm an idiot, so I don't use that. It is very quick and very helpful to do rough cuts if you like, but I don't use that. Instead, I just stay on the selector tool. Now, if we highlight all of that and click delete, that will get rid of everything that we don't want in the end of the video. But that was a little bit too inefficient for me. So instead, what we can do is we can click Option Y, and that will highlight everything in front of our scrubber, and we can click delete, and there we go. But that wasn't too efficient for me. So instead what we're gonna do is we're gonna click Command Z a couple times before we cut all of our clips, and we're gonna click Shift, and we're gonna click the right bracket. And would you look at that? Something similar to this feature that I use all the time is, say we had 2 clips that looked something like this. That wasn't efficient enough for me. So if we click Option Y, Shift plus 1:00, look at that. Which brings up another feature to talk about. So let's say we have something that kind of looked like this, and we want to delete those middle clips. We'll just highlight Shift Delete, and that automatically gets rid of that gap that would be there otherwise. If we didn't click Shift, it would look like this. This also shows you that, yes, you can click Command B and then move things around. And yeah, if we really just wanted to go crazy here. It also shows how off every clip is relative to each other. So this +20 and this -20, yeah, those go to the same clip. And the more we move them away from each other, the larger that red number gets. So that's helpful to know if something's off. So like, oh, this is off, I didn't realize. We gotta move that back. It's Perfect. If we don't want these red numbers bothering us, we could just bring this over here and then highlight both of these clips, which are corresponding with each other. And because you can see that they have this little link icon, that they are linked. So if we right click on one of those clips after they're highlighted, currently link clips is checked, so we can uncheck that. And there we go. It also shows you a lot of hotkeys for things. So there it is, it's a hotkey for linking clips. You can see that these two are linked and this middle one isn't, and that's because in the beginning of this tutorial, when we copied the linked video clip, even though it was linked, we only copied the video and not the audio. So if we click Command C and Command V, it only copies the audio, so it's not linked. Also with linked clips, sometimes when we move the video or the audio, now it gets offset and that's annoying. So we do Command Z and then click off. If we go up to this link icon, now when we click on the video, it will move the audio with it because they're linked. So that's a bit helpful. I never use it, but that's helpful. Okay, I realized that linked selection button is actually very helpful because when you're importing something and you might get that gap accidentally, you could delete the gap, but then this happens. So if we clicked the linked selection button and delete, there we go. Likewise, when you're in the middle of an edit and you have a gap here, if linked selection is on, then when you delete the gap, it's all connected. I still don't think it's something I'll use all the time, but it can be helpful. While editing this tutorial, the Shift bracket hotkey instead of the Shift command hotkey actually proved to be helpful. I was adding in this keyboard image, which by the way, adding in an image is the same as adding in a video, you just drag and drop. But I was adding this in specifically to show you where the bracket key is, and just by muscle memory, I did Command Shift right bracket, and I was wondering why that flashed for a second. And then I realized, oh, because it's trying to connect the clips together, which you can't right there, that doesn't make sense. So instead, you can just do the Shift right bracket, and there we go, it's perfect. I mean, I don't think anything changed by doing the Command Shift right bracket, but I don't know, it feels safer to me, and it worked there. It actually made sense to use it right there, because it didn't try to connect the clips. Instead, it only cut off where my scrubber is. Now let's click Command Z and change everything back to how it was before, after I deleted the end part. Now when you're editing, obviously when you make a mistake, you might have to use Command Z or Control Z to undo what you just did. But what if you want to redo what you just undid? If I want that cut I just made back, then in that case I can do Command Shift Z, or for PC I assume Control Shift Z, and that will redo what we just undid. And when we're talking about hotkeys, you can go to the DaVinci Resolve tab, go to Keyboard Customization, and you can see all the hotkeys that are currently assigned. Sometimes when we're editing, we might have multiple clips like this, and we can use the up and down arrows to go between them, but what if we just want to go straight to the beginning of the timeline, or to the end of the timeline? Well, we can add a hotkey for that in the keyboard customization. If we go to Playback, open Go To, scroll down and go to Timeline End. Personally, I'm not going to reassign any keys that are already assigned. You can, but I'm not going to. So if we click this arrow, which is what is currently assigned to, but I don't know what key that is, we're going to click that, and now it's outlined in red. We can do something like Control E, and that will bring us to the end of the timeline. For timeline start, we can do Control S, then click Save. Enter preset name. I don't know, just leave it what it is. Okay, well, preset name, DaVinci Resolve 1, close. And now Control S brings us to the start of the timeline, and Control E brings us to the end of the timeline. Oh, so earlier I showed you how to do this, but if you don't want these clips to automatically connect, you can just do Shift bracket, and that works both ways. If you want some background music for this, we can drag our audio file underneath the current audio clip that we have. You can shrink this a little. If we were to play it back, we notice that our background music is way too loud. It should not be red. Well, the A1 is a lot quieter. So to change that, we click on the background music, and then where it says volume, we can do negative 30. That's usually pretty good. And yeah, it's all the way down there now. And if we wanted to raise up the voiceover, then we click on that clip and click, how about 5? And that will bring up our audio for our voiceover a little bit. If you made it 10, it would be a lot louder, you can see. And yeah, just keep it out of the red section typically. It's a good rule of thumb. And keep the background music very low. You'd be able to hear in your headphones how it is and then adjust accordingly to what you would like. So I'm pretty sure for background music, a good rule of thumb is usually negative 20 or negative 25. Sometimes I find myself doing negative 30 or negative 35. Again, it's just something you have to listen for yourself. Now, if we want to edit this background music a little bit, personally, I can't see the audio waves. So if we shrink this and expand that just to make it a little bit easier to see, move this up a little bit because we're just doing the audio right now, you see the music doesn't actually start right away. So we can click and drag this beginning of the clip over a little bit. Or if we want to, we can just click up here, which is right above the beginning of the audio. That'll bring the scrubber over, or you can click and drag the scrubber over. Then click on the clip and click Command B and then delete. Then click on the clip and do Command Shift and left bracket, and that brings it straight to the beginning. Now if we click the down arrow, that will bring us to the end of actually the text block, because that is the current clip that is the shortest. So if we click the down arrow again, that will bring us to the end of the actual video clip. And if we do Command Shift right bracket, that will cut off our audio clip right at the end of the video clip. Now if we want to fade out, we can hover over the clip and go to this white section right here and bring that to the left. You also play with how fast or slow it fades out. And oh yeah, you can just do this to change how loud the volume is. It's not as precise, but you can do that. Likewise, if we wanted to fade in, we could just bring this white dot over here to the right, and yeah, now it fades in. Also, if you want to cut up your project a little bit more after you've already put in the background music, you can actually lock the timeline specifically with the background music. Now you can cut up everything and the music will stay perfectly intact. So then no matter how much you delete things, the music will stay perfectly fine. Then we can unlock it, go over here, do Command Shift right bracket. If we don't want to hear the music while we're editing, we can go to the track settings and click M. If we want to hear it again, we click it again. And once again, while editing this tutorial, I realized that some parts of my audio were way too loud and some parts were way too quiet. And I didn't want to have to go in and manually make sure everything was consistent. So after watching one YouTube short telling me how to fix this, I'm putting this in here. So my narration track is on A1. If we go over to this music note or the Fairlight page, and then inner mixer, we'll see A1. Click on dynamics, and then turn on compressor and limiter. The thresholds in both of these are the main things you want to be playing with. The threshold in the compressor will bring up some of the quieter parts and lower some of the louder parts. And the threshold in the limiter will add a limit to how high the volume can go. Also make sure dynamics is on. Then once you save it, it should sound fairly consistent. And to be clear, every clip here still has its audio changed at least a little bit, and some of them haven't changed a lot, but they were more so bulk changes rather than checking each one individually. I'm sorry if it doesn't sound great in this video, I'm not an audiophile. Now I think we're ready to export. So let's go over to the rocket ship over here. If the file location is blank, you want to click browse and just click whatever file location you want. So I want to use the downloads. For file name, just call it whatever you want. I usually don't play with these too much. The frame rate is just kind of whatever the project frame rate is. Timeline resolution, I mean, we know from our settings that it's 1080 by 1920, but if you want to bring it up, yeah, you can do 4K, or you can bring it down if you want. Because I'm on a Mac, I use Format QuickTime, but I imagine if you're on a PC, you just want to use MP4. If we go over to audio, first of all, this little box here, when it's checked, it shows that we are exporting the audio. So if I'm exporting something like a GIF and I don't need audio, I can turn that off, or if I just don't want it there for some reason. You can also just export the audio if you want to turn off the video for some reason. It depends what you're doing. Make sure output track is bus 1 stereo. That will make sure that all the audio is being exported. Audio normalization, since I upload to YouTube, I'll click normalize audio, and then instead of sample peak program, I'll click YouTube, and that I think should make it good for a YouTube video. Want to make sure that render entire timeline is clicked, but if you want to just export a specific part of what you've edited, you can do in out range and then click the I key and the O key, and you can see that the gray line is what's going to be exported. But we want the entire thing to be exported, so let's click entire timeline, then click add to render queue when ready. And you can see it's up here, and click render all. And there you go, that's DaVinci Resolve 101.